made a video this morning, and I'm not entirely convinced about how clear it was, but what I was trying to talk about in that was about the kind of physical orientation of the senses, how they're part of the logic of the physical human body, as kind of creatures which are really vertical. Our sensory organs are partially, at least, arrayed vertically, with our eyes at the top. What I was just speculating on was whether that vertical array brings with it certain kind of conceptual baggage, if you like. The fact that our visual sense, the sense that gives us greatest objectivity on the world, the sense that's dependent most on light, the sense that actually dominates our thinking in terms of, taking up the most processing power of our brain. The fact that that sense is at the top of our head, whereas other senses, particularly what I was talking about in terms of the felt sense, the sense of kind of interoception, of touch, of feeling where you are in space, that kind of whole proprioceptive sense, that sense is being lower down. What that arrangement, what effect that arrangement has in terms of our understanding. And what I was just saying, I'm not repeating myself here, but listen to the first one, is that because of that arrangement, it may be that some of the inferences and entailments that we associate with lower altitude, things like darkness, things like closeness to the earth, things like limited visibility, limited knowledge, those kind of inferences tend to attach themselves to senses which are placed lower down in the vertical range of our physical being, if you like. And conversely, that inferences of height to do with lightness, to do with, and by that I mean absence of weight, to do with access to knowledge, to do with distance from the earth, all those kind of things perhaps would attach themselves to sight, and how those things would play themselves out not just literally but also metaphorically. So metaphors which draw upon the visual sense would acquire some of the trappings of elevation, and metaphors which draw on the felt sense, interoception, feeling, the haptic pressings of the flesh, if you like, would take on some of the trappings of low altitude and earthiness and groundedness and those kind of things. I think they probably do, but as I say, I'm only speculating. But one of the things I'm thinking about right now is, and this is just a kind of an observation, follow-up observation, is that how that might be arranged differently if our physiology was different, or if our physiology was more like these two animals I spend a lot of my time with, which is Guy and Phoebe, the dogs. They're, Guy walks through the world, here he comes now, and he's walking through the world, and his advance on the world is initiated by his nose, which is the most important sense in the dog's life. He gets as much information through his nose, apparently, as I do through my eyes. So it's a very rich source of information. And then that's followed by his eyes, and then by the bulk of his body. There's no sense in which the body, in a dog like Guy, is kind of underneath his eyes. It's kind of behind his eyes. So if he was capable of interoception, I don't know if you don't think he is, he's a dog, but if he was capable of that kind of process that humans can go through, where they take their attention off the visual sense and put it into their body, if he was doing that, he wouldn't be lowering his attention, his focus of attention down, he'd be sending it back. He'd be thinking back into his body. And that must be a completely different experience. He wouldn't have any of that kind of literary hierarchical sense in which the senses are arrayed vertically in space. None of those inferences to do with closeness to the earth or distance from the light, any of that kind of stuff would be going on. It would be a front-back dimension that would be being traversed as he sent his attention back into his body. And that's really different. If I was to imagine what that was like, and this is purely science fiction really more than anything else, I think it would have to be something to do with time. There's this peculiar thing, I think, that we all have, humans, I'm just speculating, the dogs have it as well, is when we try to conceive of time, because it's totally abstract, we use a spatial metaphor to think of it. So we think of the future as in front of us and the past behind us. And we do these kind of gestures when we refer to the past and refer to the future. And it's in all of our language. It finds expression in our language, and it's revealed through our language. So it's talk about looking forward to the future and looking back on the past, those kind of things. So if I was a dog, or had a body like the dog, and if I was capable of that kind of interoception and that kind of switching of attention from the visual sense to the proprioceptive, interoceptive sense, and if there's any validity at all in these ideas to do with that switching, picking up some of the inferences from that motion, then it might pick up some of the inferences to do with time. So to send attention back into your body for a dog is to like revisit the past, and to bring it back to the eyes, or even bring it back to the nose particularly, is to send it to the future and send it to the moment of now, if you like. That would be great. I'd love to try that. I suspect it's probably hardwired. I think I could probably spend months crawling on my belly like a snake or something like that, and I'd probably never be able to have that, to sense that conceptualization. And I'm certainly not going to try it, just in case. Interesting.